And this hangout on air is most definitely live. And Alex Hayes here, sitting in Australian National University on my lunch break, and I'm with Michaela and Ruth from Paramotic, who are wonderful people. And today, hi, and we're going to be adding a few people, which I'm going to do now. Make sure that people are coming and joining us to discuss this amazing thing you've started up called Deadly Glass. I'm sure that people are going to be interested in what it means, how it works, challenges, some of the prospects ahead, some of the things that we're looking back on, and some of the things that we're looking forward on. I've just sent invites to 47 people.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see who actually turns up. But in the meantime, for the people who are our virtual audience, we'll be looking at this in the perpetuity of time. Michaela, could you give us an idea who you are, where you're from, and what this Deadly Glass project's about?
Okay, so my name's Michaela, Jade, and I take my middle name from my Aboriginal totem, which is a white cockatoo. I'm 35 years old. I'm a mother of two amazing kids, and I had an awakening when I was 30 that I need to really pay attention to the past and realise that I have a lot of generations of knowledge and wisdom running through my body, and so does everybody else, and that I elected to do something about making the world a better place for the 7 generations of sunrises that are yet to occur. Yeah.
And Ruth, who is, I would say, the 2 peas in a pod.
So, hi everyone, I'm Ruth. I'm Mick's business partner. I'm a Pākehā New Zealander who grew up in Brisbane. I've had the privilege for the last, 2 and a bit years to work with Mick, and for 18 months or so we've been running our company called Paramotic. We are privileged to work with a lot of Indigenous communities around the world, and I'm just really along for the ride. I believe you get one life and you only get one chance to make the world a better place, so you have to do what you want to do.
Indeed. And we're joined by Samantha Myers, who I can see down there. Hi Samantha, how are you?
Hi Samantha.
Would you like to say hello? Let's see.
Hi.
Oh, there's Samantha there, right down, waving away. Yes, so I've just realised I've just sent a huge call out and call across 47 computers that's rung the world.
I will.
And they're all going, help! I'm leaving the hangout, too busy. Yeah, so how does glass sit in the framework of what you're looking to do and engage with in the near future? Where's it heading?
Okay, so should we start with a backwards view as to how we got here to move forward, Alex, or would you like to just hear the future part?
I really don't mind, whichever way you want to head.
Okay, well, I always like to look back to look forward, so I might start with the backstory. The recent backstory, and people can see the long backstory in our TEDx talk. The recent backstory is that we were invited along to a Google Glass meetup at the University of Canberra a couple of weeks ago, where we met you, Alex. And we were going with the lens of some work that we're doing through a project called Digital Ranges. We've been prototyping for the last 6 months augmented reality to tell and share Indigenous cultural knowledge on country, and looking at the many facets of that, looking at how you reduce Indigenous narrative to bite-sized chunks that can be handled by augmented reality and mobile technologies, to the back end of that project as to how you create economic sustainability for Indigenous communities. And what we went to Glass because we'd heard about Google Glass around the communities that we hang out with in Canberra, and we just really wanted to go and see what it was about. How would it fit into what we were doing with digital ranges? How did it integrate with augmented reality? Like, we see wearable technologies as the next obvious step from mobile technologies, and there's steps beyond that as well. But being able to put this thing on your head and immerse yourself in stories, in different contexts, it seemed like an amazing opportunity. So we went along and we heard what was being done in health and in school environments, and I really went along and I spoke to the Indigenous digital community and said, would you guys want to come along virtually, because I think there's a real opportunity here for Indigenous people to be involved in how we shape and how we frame how wearable technologies and beyond impacts humans as a society of people around the world. And it was really good. I got some nice interactions from Indigenous communities around Australia about how they would like to be involved in this space. And I think this is driven from the fact that in Australia in particular, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders haven't had the opportunity in the past to really shape how we move forward as a nation. And with digital, it's not just emerging, it's here and it's been here for a while. I feel like some communities get left behind, and I think it's time that we stepped up and said, actually, no, we want to be involved. We want to be involved in shaping how this happens, and we want to be involved from the perspective of a non-Western lens.
Powerful words. So,
what she said.
Yeah.
Reiterated. We've got a couple more people who I've met in the past who are in themselves powerful in all sorts of ways. People that are designing glass, connecting with the UAS systems. Shimano, who's across in... Shimano, are you in Brazil still?
Yeah.
You are? Very good.
Yeah.
What time is it there for you, Shimano?
Here it's 1 a.m.
Oh, Shimano, thank you. We went to Brazil last year and absolutely loved it. And actually, our company crystallized at 4 o'clock in the morning in Sao Paulo around Carnival. So.
It's a nice country. I'm not in my town right now. I'm working, and come back tomorrow to my city. And my glass is going to repair.
Yeah, we get asked a lot by people who live in rural Australia, how robust are they? Yeah, it's interesting.
Michaela and Ruth, Jacob has asked a question. He's saying, I still need to learn more about this project. So can you, if let's just say we're facing an audience of 500 people, which we are, and we've got a large screen behind us. If there was 3 dot points, what do you think what do you think are the key outcomes that you're seeking out of the project, out of this community and looking at this technology?
Community cohesion, digital literacy, and visitor experience.
Yeah, well, not just visitor experience, like human experience. How can we, I think we were talking before, Alex, about how, to me, this whole connection around the world, it's just the most amazing time to be alive, and there's something inside all humans that are wanting to reach out and connect with each other and know more and share more about our past and share more about our desired future state. So I think it's really about connecting with the past to help us inform the future. I think it's about being able to engage people that think differently from the way developers and technologists and scientists, I'm a scientist, think about the world and how we've been trained to think. I'm really interested in seeing how people that don't have that background and don't have that training can influence how we create new things. And also designing for people, not just designing a product and saying here it is. I think designing with the community and answering the question, what do we want it to do? And then being able to start from there and design forward is really what we'd like to get out of setting up the community.
And Michaela's not just getting emotional there, she's actually got broken ribs. And she's very bravely sitting up and breathing. So we're incredibly honoured to have Michaela join us.
So don't make her laugh.
Yeah, don't make me laugh. Very painful.
So, backgrounds for the audience that don't know who you are. You're pretty amazing people. You're a biologist, I understand, Michaela?
I am a biologist. I studied environmental biology many moons ago. My interest in terms of environmental biology was looking at systems and how systems interact with each other and how humans fit into the environmental system. I believe that we're all part of biology, and biology holds a lot of the answers to a lot of humanity's problems. I'm really interested in, having worked with Ruth, who's a PhD in organic chemistry, how the foundations of chemistry and biology and physics align to inform how humans behave together and how we behave as communities, how we behave as individuals, how we behave between humans and other species, between humans and environments. And I think a lot of our Indigenous cultures around the world still have deep connections about how we grew from that. So I think it's a really nice alignment between cultural knowledge and the sciences and now technology. Ruth and I like technology. We see technology as a tool to achieve things that, our desired future states. And yeah, that's yeah.
It's interesting. Also, as a number of people have said, can you explain what deadly glass means?
Deadly.
So what's the deadly bit?
Deadly mate.
Deadly. It's very.
It's like
So when you walk out, when you're part of Indigenous or Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community in Australia, we have the saying that it's deadly. Deadly means awesome or really good, or it means awesome. And so someone might say to me, "Oh, that's deadly, sis. Like, I really like what you're doing." And I like what you're doing, and I dig that.
So if we flip that on its head and say we take it to be, as it's stated, deadly glass, for some people it has a very negative connotation as well. Can you tell me what perhaps some of the fears are in your community? And when I say community, I'm saying Australian and Torres Strait Islanders across Australasia. What are the fears around this technology?
Okay, so I don't speak for every single Indigenous person in Australia, but I do, having been immersed, I do talk to a lot of my peers and colleagues and family and friends about these kind of things. I mean, we've got the same concerns as everybody does. I mean, surveillance, having our knowledge being able to be put in a digital platform and then deleted. A lot of our knowledge, in particular our cultural knowledge and our artefacts in the past in Australia, have been taken without our consent and economised by other people that aren't Indigenous people. So, I mean, I think there's a real fear that this is just a digital age of doing things that have happened in the past to Indigenous people.
I think there's also the have-not gap too, in that in Australia, and I'm sure this is true around the world with a lot of Indigenous communities, there's a big gap in education outcomes, health outcomes, life expectancy, economic opportunities between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. And there's a fear amongst people who are involved in tech and in the Indigenous community that if this is not taken up within Indigenous communities and not encouraged, then it will just widen that gap and it will leave people further behind and give them less opportunity instead of more as we go ahead into a digital future.
And there's been strong narrative around, in the last 12 months around our community in terms of social media. I mean, that's kind of where most of us are up to in the digital journey. Social media and web and all things that we consider normal over the last 5 to 10 years. I think that the powerful conversation that's happening at the moment in community is where are the opportunities for Indigenous people to influence this space, and where is the support for that to happen? Like we're rich in knowledge, but some of our community are very economically disadvantaged. How do you get your hands on something like Google Glass to be able to influence that? I mean, this is something that's just going to be imposed on you later on down the track when everyone else who can afford it's had the opportunity to play with it and drive the future of this technology.
I hope Google's listening to this. I'm sure they are.
Ping Google.
Hi Google.
In terms of the affirmative side of things, if we in our hands are holding something that's quite unique, something that hasn't yet been really fully articulated, and in fact isn't even commercially available. We can't actually pick it up off the shelf, but we have the privilege of being able to work with developers and brilliant minds like the ones that are online right now with us. Can you give me perhaps 2 scenarios? Give me, as though you're inventing something, what do you think? Just try and visualize and explain how glass could be used, say, for storytelling in across Australasia.
Oh my goodness, so many.
I think, well, we can use an example from our prototyped augmented reality that you'll see in our TEDx talk. One of the elders we worked there with for that project, Roy, is from the Yolngu people up in Ramingining. So this is a very remote part of Australia. I haven't been there. Have you been there?
I've been to, no.
No, nearby. So it's very remote for people who are not familiar with Australia. And we asked him if he'd like to be involved in this project, and we didn't realise sort of the full extent of what we were offering by that involvement. So he got in touch with us and said, you know, the opportunity you've afforded me to tell my own story in my own words, from my own place,
in my own language, to be shared with anyone in the world at the time that they choose in their place, is something I couldn't conceive of when I was a child and I was removed from my family and prevented from speaking my language and not allowed to be who I am. So I think the capacity of these kind of technologies to connect story across time, distance, and geographic location, well, that is distance, isn't it? But time and distance, and language as well is really exciting and an opportunity that is appreciated in community as much as outside, if not more so. Yeah.
So that's one. I've done my bit.
I think too, like the health implications. I mean, health in Indigenous communities is very high on the agenda. A lot of the conversation around Indigenous space in Australia is around health. I mean,
like there's a place 7 hours drive from where we live. We live in Canberra. It's the capital of Australia. Median income is very high. It's pretty comfy life, really. There's a place 7 hours drive from here where the life expectancy is 34. So, I mean, you're done for, and we've got 4 years left. And this is not the case in the rest of Australia, and that's unacceptable. And a lot of people don't know about it, and should be outrageous, really. So the capacity of these kind of technologies to step into a place where obviously the health outcomes and social outcomes are so poor, and to bridge the remoteness are really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Ruth and I have often, we've been on this digital ranger journey, which is really about experiential visits to country for Indigenous and non-Indigenous
So when we say
people.
country, that's an Australian term for visiting a place. So Indigenous people call it my country, and if you go on country, then you're acknowledging that you're walking on Indigenous land and looking at the land sort of with a view to that kind of experience. Yeah.
So yeah, we've been working in that space. One space that Ruth and I are really interested in pursuing too is a thing called digital nurses, and we see a massive opportunity for a brand new sector in Indigenous health where they're not a nurse, they're not a doctor, they're a technologist that works between nurses and doctors.
And they come from community.
And this is really important because, people...
we've heard stories, of people. So renal problems are a big issue in Indigenous communities in Australia. And we heard a story of an uncle, and he had kidney problems, and the nurse said to him, look, you've got to come back on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And a week later, which was Tuesday at 2 o'clock, he didn't turn up, and they were like, oh, well, he's a recalcitrant patient, whatever. 6 months later, he came in at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday because he'd understood that you need to come on that Tuesday at 2 o'clock because he had a different understanding of what they were saying to him. So to be able to bridge culture, technology, and medical knowledge would be a really exciting opportunity for this kind of technology.
Yeah.
We've been talking for quite a period of time, and there's a number of brilliant people here, including Jade and Timothy and so on, who understand glass to be digital glass more than just Google Glass, because there's many other
Yeah.
aspects to that. Does anybody have any? Does anybody want to interrupt me and perhaps ask a question of Ruth and Michaela about this project that they've embarked on and this community they're building?
Yep. There's no difficult questions.
Yeah, there's no hard questions. Hi everyone.
There's people popping in and out.
Yeah.
I've got a number of them, so I'll just fire away until somebody wants to interrupt me. The Indigenous Australians, Aboriginal Australians, have been here for 40,000 years and more, and there's over 300 spoken languages and 600 dialects. It says this in your glass community site. What does it mean for continuation of and reinforcement of language across communities for these types of technologies?
It's incredible. I mean, as you'll know, Alex, there's some people that speak language in Australia where they can count on one hand the other people that can communicate with them in that language. I mean, we have a lot of disappearing languages, not just in Australia, but around the world. When Ruth and I were researching that language, we found out that during my own lifetime, 7,000 languages will disappear. And what we're losing with language is not just the language, it's all the stories and the knowledge that go with that.
And anyone on this Hangout who's bilingual will know that it's not enough to translate from one language to the other. You always lose something in translation. So in losing the language, it's yes, the knowledge is not completely lost if it's translated into English or something else, but there are nuances and aspects and parts of that story that will go and never come back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I see digital technologies, and I've said this a lot in other spaces and forums, that we don't have to necessarily be in that position anymore. Like, we don't have to lose our language. We don't have to lose our dance. We don't have to lose our art form. It's a really exciting time where we can convey nearly all of the senses and capture that through technology.
And that can be conveyed across time too. So we face, as Mika said before, and I'm paraphrasing her words, in Australia, and I think it's true in other places in the world, we face the biggest generation gap between the knowledge holders and those who need to receive it. And we don't have long. We really don't have long. And should the younger people not be ready to receive the knowledge now, and they obviously have to come to the place that they are in their own time, that's part of their journey, but we have the capacity to create like a digital time capsule where this knowledge can be shared across time. It doesn't have to be physically sat together at this particular moment. As we're doing with it by recording this Hangout, I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. We're having a conversation across time with people who can't be present right now. So.
We get to cringe at our fashion statements in 20 years.
In 20 years.
So
we get to cringe.
As I was saying earlier, you have established an online G+ community. It's the very first time that you've seen something unfold and roll out in certain ways.
Yeah.
How can the Glass Explorers community and the Glass family hashtag, how can they help and assist?
Can we call them the glamory?
Could do. That's it. Well, if it's a glass room, for sure.
Then we could be a glamory. Bring a sequence.
Well, we're just keen to learn. Ruth and I aren't explorers per se. We don't have glass. The way we approach the world is primarily through human-centered design lens. And science. And we've been thinking a lot about how can the stuff that we're talking about materialize, like what needs to happen to have digital health, to have digital language repositories. I mean, they're happening all around the world at the moment, but no one seems to be networking the networkers, if you know what I mean. So,
and Mick and I are in the enviable position of being very connected into communities that are not usually connected to technology communities, but also being educated enough in technology to understand enough to not embarrass ourselves too extensively in the communities as well. So we feel a little bit like
translators.
Yeah, we can bridge two worlds in a way, and certainly there's a hunger from within communities to tell their stories and to share their stories. with people who are listening with their ears open.
Mm.
So yeah, we're just, I mean, we don't really have a formula, do we? Just keen for people to get in touch and let us know what they think and what skills they have and what capacity people have if they want to help, or just chat to us. Just, you know, we'll unfold as it unfolds, and yeah,
Good.
we're just here to learn.
Yeah.
Exactly. Believe it or not, it's almost half an hour, and I'm sure that others have. Somebody's already tweeting glamory out there. I mean, it's really hard to see.
I'll be taking royalties for that. Thank you, 10 cents a tweet.
We're already in the Jamily, so we'll have the Jamily and the Glamily.
The glamour and the glamour is happening.
Yeah. Oh, we should have put our secret hats on for the Glamily next time.
The Gov Jam's happening as we speak, so
hi to those people.
Yeah, unbeknownst to everyone else, you're incredibly talented people in terms of data gov, open data, everything to do with data really, and also a whole range of brilliant other stuff. Is there some way that people can get a grasp on? Is it likely that we could follow perhaps like Deadly Glass, like as a main hashtag? Would that be the way that you want people to steer if they're resourcing or pinging stuff? Would that work?
Yeah.
Or join the community.
Yeah, we're if anyone wants to, you know, get other perspectives from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, we're about to go and invite a whole heap of people into the glass community that are, you know, from similar backgrounds to me.
And from around the world too.
From around the world. So, you know, we've been talking to Alex about, we're also part of the World Indigenous Network, which is a network of 1,300 First Nations people around the world who are, you know, last year we all connected for the first time to share information around wisdoms to do with living in a changing climate. And, you know, part of that discussion is how do we use technology to make sure we stay connected and we share our experiences of dealing with changing climate. And it's kind of important stuff to know how to grow food in a changing climate, how to manage population clashes.
And this is one of the key, like this is one of the, and I posted briefly on the Deadly Glass community page about it this morning, is that, you know, I have a PhD, I'm highly educated, I know enough to be dangerous in quite a few fields. But coming into the Indigenous community, people often say to me, oh, well, you know, that's not your bag, Ruth, why are you involved with that, you know? Why aren't you off working for a pharmaceutical company making a shitload of money? Oh, I said I wasn't going to swear. Now I'm going to blush. But the reason I'm involved is I've had the privilege for about 18 months to be involved in this, and I love knowledge of all kinds, and that's why I am educated in the things that I'm educated in. And coming into the Indigenous community, I'm privileged to have been given a lot of stories, and when you say this to people, you think story, you think fairy tale, and these are not fairy tale stories. This is not Little Miss Muffet or Red Riding Hood. These are wisdoms of thousands of years of human knowledge of how we live on our planet, how we live sustainably, how we put our communities together, what plants have medicinal qualities, and I mean some of them are going extinct. Health is something we're really passionate about. So these are not just stories. This is the collective wisdom of the oldest living culture in humanity. And if we let this go, then we're idiots, you know. So that's why I'm involved. And I don't remember where that came from.
And I think like being involved in this community, Alex, is really exciting for me. And I hope other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people embrace this, because we don't get an opportunity very often to have an equal platform to talk about our experience and knowledge and how we would like to influence it. I think it's really important that we take a reconciliation approach to this and say, you know, it's not them against us or us against them. This can be a place where people can have dialogue across cultures about how we move forward and how we might, you know, share each other's knowledge. We've seen this so much during the incentive design about just language. I mean, we went to Brazil last year, people innovating, they speak Portuguese. You know, I don't speak Portuguese. How much knowledge am I missing out on because I just can't understand the language? How much knowledge are they missing out on because they can't understand mine? And I think this technology is just, it's going to explode the human knowledge repository because for the first time we'll be able to share across cultures, across languages.
And it's the only thing, like we know as scientists what's happening to our resource and to our habitat, and what happens to populations of any organism when you do this. I mean, as I said on the site, the crash is coming and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
But as humans, we're different because we can collaborate and we can innovate like no other species can. And so we need to connect, and we need to share this knowledge to save ourselves from what we've done to ourselves. So it's urgent, and it's right now, and we have to do it. I'm getting excited.
And you've both stepped forward into that, and I'm very privileged and honoured, as are the people from the Explorers community, to be involved in what you're doing. And it's very important, both for me from a personal level, but also from many other people's perspectives as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you,
We're
Alex.
not saying we have all the answers, but it's the first time that we're able to really talk about how we work together to make this thing better.
And we love meeting new people and learning from new people. So yeah, get in touch, ping us on G+ or wherever, on everything. So yeah, find us and get in touch and have a chat.
2 days ago.
Absolutely.
We're on D+ now, as of 2 days ago.
That's right. People, please ask questions of Ruth and Michaela in the Deadly Glass site, and hashtag glamory. Let's get into it, and it'll be a deadly experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, deadly. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys, for
Bye.
joining us, and we'll see you on in the community.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for joining.
Nice to meet you.